After I made my knife, I noticed I had a very big problem, and that problem was I couldn't carry the knife around with me because I had nothing to carry it with, and that's why I'm making a sheath. So to start with that sheath, I'm scratching in the design that I made on a piece of paper, the template, onto our leather. This part of the process is just really straightforward. It's just scratching in the design using something pointy or sharp, probably pointy. This is the biggest project I've ever done with leather, and it's the only sheath I've ever made. So I'm pretty excited about making something like this. I'm ready for a lot of stitching, maybe a little bit of cutting, and actually speaking of cutting, enjoy these clips of just cutting noises. Sorry for no sound here. There was just too much background noise, and it would have been way too distracting. And since using the project knife to, cut these round edges, it'd be way too imprecise, and it'd turn out really weirdly. I'm using this, I honestly, I forgot what it's called. It's some sort of like Japanese knife that's meant for doing something that I forgot, but it also works great for stuff like this because of the way you cut things with it. It just works really well, and that's why I'm using it. Also, this leather was a piece of scrap that was, I think, buffalo. I'm pretty sure it was buffalo hide, but it was a piece of scrap, and it's nice leather. So I'm gonna definitely not waste any of it. I'm gonna waste as little as possible. And yeah, this project only took about 2 or 3 days for the actual making, but all the editing, uploading videos to the computer, and all that other good stuff that was really really boring. It's too boring. It took probably 2 months. And the biggest problem was I didn't even have a way to actually edit it because the computer I had, as I think I already mentioned, did not have enough storage at all. And basically what I'm doing here is I'm not really, yeah, you could say smoothing it. I'm just making them fit together better because I cut them separately, and sanding will really help with that. And I'm just using a piece of emery cloth. And since sanding it like this leaves a lot of fiber sticking out, I will smooth that out later. And here I have a welt that it was one of the scraps that I water molded. You get it wet and then mold it into the shape and let it dry like that. I did that off camera, and it fits almost perfectly, and this was just a scrap. Here I'm sanding it because contact cement does not it doesn't really stick that well to leather if it's not nice and fibrous. If you don't know what a welt is, it's just a piece of leather for a sheath or something that contains something sharp to prevent the stitches from getting cut as you take the knife out or put it in. I'm using contact cement here to help hold it together while I stitch, and I also am using it to hold together the pieces that I'm making the loop out of. This was probably the most simple part at all because it was just putting the contact cement on, putting them together, or no, sorry, letting it cure for a little bit and then putting them together, and maybe press them down. And I'm doing the exact same thing for these pieces as I did for the welt and the main part of the sheath. because it just holds it together really well, and especially while you wait for stitching, or while you're trying to hold it together while stitching, which I won't even be stitching this part. And I hope you like punching, because that is what's coming up next. Lots. This next part is going to be a lot of stitching, so I hope you enjoy this part, because it was my personal favorite. I love the saddle stitch, even though I'm not the best at it, but I find it really fun, and it's my favorite stitch personally. It's also the best stitch for something like this, because it's way harder to undo, as each individual part holds stronger than with a different stitch, and especially like a machine stitch, they aren't nearly as good. It's also a pretty simple stitch to understand, although like everything, it takes practice, so you probably won't get it very good at first. My first few saddle stitches were kind of very bad, and I did not like that. So I did a lot of more practice before I actually did this project, and they ended up coming out much better than on most of my practices. Although I did occasionally have the floating stitches, which happens, I believe, when you cross your string on in your stitch, and it's annoying and it's really noticeable, and I don't like that, but it still looks good, I think. And here I'm using a burnisher on a Dremel tool. It works really well. It's much less work if you just put the Dremel in this vise like I did. I'm using a Tokinol, like, polisher or something like that. I'm not entirely sure. Yeah, it's some sort of polisher, and it gets rid of a lot of the fibers, a lot of all the fibrous stuff you see, and it makes leather nice and smooth, and it gives it that, that feel, the it gives it a slightly hardened feel as well around the edge. And here I'll just be punching in the holes for the rivets to connect the thing together. That'll be it, and oh no, I messed up. And I'm trying again here, and luckily this time it came out quite a bit less lopsided. However, in the final pictures and shots I have of the video, you will almost certainly notice that it is not perfect. And these are the last few parts, just cutting off the rivets and then showing off the final product. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video, which should hopefully be coming out fairly soon, as long as you stick around. And in these pictures, you will most likely notice what I meant by just how lopsided the rivets are.